If you guys wanna pass it,
We're gonna pass it the way it
They've
is.
had a month to do it.
They've had it more than enough time, and they
but
haven't.
David said that they had some changes that they were wanting, but he never heard nothing from nobody.
Jake hasn't brought them down, and he talked to Clem today, and he talked to Frankie, and that's it.
So,
As far as I'm concerned, we're passing it. Unless, unless the rest of the board don't agree with that, but I think we should.
so, well, yeah, it's your call, whatever you wanna do.
Okay.
Okay,
We're officially open for a work session now?
yes,
5:30?
yes.
Okay. Well, we just talked about the ordinance. I do want to say something about the Attorney General's letter. Okay. I agree that now that it's been explained to me why they considered we had 2 meetings instead of 1. Okay, because we went from open session, we adjourned from open session and went into a closed session. When we went into closed session, that was a second meeting. And there was no agenda for that, because we closed out the agenda when we closed the meeting, adjourned. So therefore, the next time we go into closed session, what we should do is go into closed session, not to adjourn from the open session, but go into closed session, and then come back out of closed session, and then we'll be back in open session and adjourn the meeting. That way we're working off of one agenda.
Can we do that?
Yes, that's what it's
Here's the
supposed to
problem,
be.
well, here's my opinion on this. If we, like, go into closed session, everybody has to leave, and today, it's real cold out there.
Yeah, so we need to close the meeting so everybody knows that it's closed and that they leave.
Well, then we have to approach the second.
Well, then that's what we're gonna have to do.
We have the option of either posting, adjourning open, regular, and then going into closed, but then we need 2 pieces of paper, one for the open session agenda, one for the closed session agenda.
Exactly.
So that way,
Well, that's what we're gonna have to do.
Yeah, the thing of it is, if they think you're gonna open the meeting back up, and they're standing out there all that time, and then you close the meeting, and there's no reason for them to stand out there and wait for
No,
us.
because all we're doing is when we come back in is adjourning anyway.
Right.
right,
But we're still working off the same agenda. Understand what I'm saying?
right.
If we notify them that we're gonna go into closed session, and then when we come back out of closed session, we're gonna adjourn, come back into open session from the closed session, just adjourn, then they would know that that's all we're gonna do, is we're gonna come back out and adjourn. But if we adjourn the open session, okay, and done, and then go into closed session, that's a separate meeting. Then you have to post 2 pieces of paper. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Either way will work. If they want to stand out there, even though they know we're just going to come back in and adjourn, into open session, adjourn, then, that's on them. If that's what they want to do.
Can I offer a suggestion? I know work session, I'm not supposed to speak, and I brought this up when Carl was mayor. Why not have a meeting in the conference room of the firehouse? When you go into closed session, those people attending go out into the bay.
Because
I brought
we
that
have
up,
a
you didn't
problem
want to do
with the records. The records keeper has to keep the records in the thing. And we can't transfer the records from here up to the firehouse. I'm sorry.
Well, there's many cities that do just that. There's many cities that do just that. Meet in a firehouse.
There's a lot of questions come up in our meeting, where he has to go in there and get information.
Right.
So he did.
Okay, can I make
So
it,
And they have to remain secure, so.
we would have,
can I make a suggestion? You were talking about posting 2, letting know everybody close session. We're not supposed to know what you're doing in closed session, except why you might be going to closed session. Okay, so that paper would just be saying going to closed session, the reason why you would have a separate closed session meeting. That to me, having been in a secretarial position, I think would be easier for you guys, because then you're closing your open session, we leave, because we know there's nothing more but a separate closed session. And then that makes it a little bit easier for you guys, because you're doing it properly, but at the same time, we're aware that you're not gonna do anything but a closed session at that point.
And one thing about that too, I've got a bunch of paperwork from an attorney in Kansas City that deals with sunshine law, and was actually part of the writing of the sunshine law. And she writes about different cases that she gets. And one of them was a city that did just what you're talking about doing. While they're in closed session, he said, oh, we forgot to do this. And they opened the meeting back up again. That's something you cannot do.
We never did.
Yeah,
We
I'm
never
just
done
saying,
that.
I'm just saying, that just be aware of, if you do it that way, adjourn the open session, go into closed session.
We don't
You
adjourn.
can't go, yeah, you
We
can't
don't
go back.
adjourn the open session, we just go into closed session, and then close the closed session and come back into open session on the same agenda, because we ain't,
Okay, I thought you were talking about doing two
and
separate,
then adjourn.
I thought you were talking about doing two separate agendas.
No, if we go into do like they want, and close the open session, adjourn from the open session, and then have a closed meeting, well then that closed meeting has to be a separate agenda.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I'm saying, okay.
Right.
The other thing was, okay, was that, and I'm already, Clyde isn't bothered by it, but I was, okay? It got into the paper about the Attorney General's, the response that the city said, not that there was anything wrong with what the city said, or that it was a bad article. The point was, is that we were supposed to discuss it at work session tonight, and the board was supposed to, go over that before it got put out for public knowledge. And I didn't think that was right. Okay? It wasn't that we weren't gonna make it public, okay? But it was, the fact is that it should not have gotten in the paper before we actually had a chance to discuss it. And I didn't think that was right. I was upset about it. Now, nobody else may be upset about it, but I was. I thought the board should at least go over that and, say, okay, well, big deal. And then it got in the paper after that, and nothing was
So
done.
I guess from now on, we have a situation like that, when you're given the paper this,
Right.
don't give them anything else, just give them this.
Okay.
And then after the meeting, then you can give them the rest of it that you normally give them.
Right. See, we had a deadline on when to respond, so I had
Yes.
set a deadline.
Well, no, I totally
Which
understand
makes
that.
that public records that anybody can request from that point, so, I mean, I'm kinda obligated.
Oh, I
I
see.
can't say, no, you can't have it, when,
Right,
I have to comply within 72 hours.
However, it was not really approved, okay? Technically, it wasn't approved.
What do you mean it wasn't approved?
It wasn't
So-
technically approved. Those answers were not technically approved.
Right, but the deadline is actually today. So
Right.
it's like,
No, I totally understand what it did, okay? I'm just saying that it would be like, okay, here it is, but this is a draft. This isn't real, okay? It ain't real, okay? You understand what I'm saying?
right,
But it wasn't a draft, it was the real thing, because we had to respond. They had to,
Then we should have had a special meeting to do the response. When something like that happens, it comes up.
we
then
couldn't
should
have a special meeting because one of our aldermen was on vacation. That's, because we would have discussed this at that meeting. Do you understand what I'm saying?
What I'm saying is, yeah, I understand that one of our aldermen was on, okay?
Yes.
But that was after the reply was already made.
Yes, but if we would have had that meeting, we would have discussed it at that meeting. See what I'm saying?
2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Yes.
It's no.
It's a mute point because nobody disagrees with anybody except me. I was unhappy with it, okay? And I want to make that point known. I was unhappy that it got into the paper before the board had a chance to look at it, those responses.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there anything else you wanna talk about?
Basically, that was about it, the ordinance and, complaint from the city town. Cause the rest of them are doing my report.
I'm gonna ask for permission to take these 2 classes. The classes are free, they're in Cape. I've taken the 4 online classes that I have to do as prerequisites. I did that at home on my computer. But there will be an expense for mileage.
What are the classes for?
Incident command systems, in case there's an event of an emergency, how to run like a, command post and, what's expected, what the forms are, it's like intermediate and advanced.
Is this a one-day class or?
Well, one of them's 3 days and the other one's 2 days. And see, 99% of the classes for emergency management you can take online and home. But these classes are actually classroom. You can't just, you have to actually show up, those, butts in seats, or what they call that. And they don't come around very often. So, it's up to you guys, because it's gonna be tricky, because one night's a board meeting, so I'm gonna have to brush straight here, another night's payroll, so I'm gonna have somebody take the transfer checks, and the mileage, 5 days to and from Cape, it's $270, so it's your call. If you don't wanna, it's up to you.
Is it beneficial? I mean, it's gonna be.
Yeah, it's something that the city needs. We need a command center and stuff.
It's required for, right.
Go ahead.
For like fire departments, it's required, for them to be like a safety or trainer or whatever and stuff like that. So, it is pretty standard required.
Now, has any of our firefighters taken any of these classes?
Well, Curtis is signed up for these 2 classes. I looked at who the other participants were. I don't know if he's actually going to show up or not, because Tuesday he was supposed to be in a class with me in St. Jen, and he didn't go. So, if Curtis is going, it'd be great, because we could carpool, split the cost of, the mileage. But, I don't know if he's going to actually go, or if he just signed up for a seat or if he didn't go or not.
I have no problem. It's something beneficial. You do your job.
Okay.
That's fine for it, huh?
I agree. It's necessary.
You ought to be good.
All right.
Hey,
how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Hey.
Okay, anything else?
Guys.
I'm doing good.
Okay, I guess we'll take a break until 6 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, no, I'm going.
I'm doing good.
I'll let you know. Oh, no, we did there, but still, it's windy.
They trained me on what I need to do. Oh, yeah.
We party.
Smoke.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, I'll go with you.
We're going out to take care